Hello everyone. In this video, I clean the grave of a 2-year-old little girl named Vergia May Cropper. Vergia is a child that is buried in the abandoned cemetery called the County Line that I have helped clean up in this video series. When I went to research her, I wasn't anticipating finding very much information on her just because she was a child and she was forgotten. The amount of information I found on her family was overwhelming, and I just want to say this is probably one of the most interesting stories I've ever told. Her father was quite the character. He was arrested several times. He was a murderer. He assaulted his neighbor. He was a famous moonshiner. The list goes on. With that being said, I'm excited to tell you guys this story, and I just think it's so neat how you can find out this much history and information just by looking up the family story on a 2-year-old. So enough of me rambling, let's get into the story. Vergia May Cropper was born on January 11th, 1914 in Ozark County, Missouri. She was the fourth of 7 children born to James, or Jim, and Cora Eldridge Cropper. When Vergia was born, her father was 30 and her mother was 24. Since there isn't much information on Vergia herself, I'm going to tell her parents' story. On January 27th, 1906, Jim Cropper and Cora Eldridge had their first child together, a daughter named Hazel. Cora was 16 and James was 22 when their first child was born. A little over 2 months later, on April 2nd, 1906, Jim and Cora eloped to Mountain Home, Arkansas, and were married. The newspaper article reporting the marriage said, "No wonder Jim came back all smiles." Jim and Cora would have 7 children together total, 3 boys and 4 girls: Hazel, Henry, Claude, Vergia, Woodrow, Jewel, and Thelma. Cora worked as a housewife, and Jim said he farmed for a living, but he was also a moonshiner. 10 years after the couple were married, Jim had his first run-in with the law. In May of 1916, early in the morning, Robert or Bob Maynard harnessed his mule and had started plowing a field. Bob was Jim's neighbor and their farms bordered each other. After working for a while, Bob stopped at a spring and was leaning over getting a drink of water when Jim ambushed him from the back with a .30-30 rifle. The first shot fired hit Bob in the shoulder and lodged in his back. Bob then began to run away, and Jim fired 4 more shots at him. 3 shots missed, and 1 slightly wounded his cheek. Bob managed to escape to his home and alerted the law. Jim was arrested when the empty rifle shells were found near the scene of the shooting, and it was said Jim had the only rifle in the area that shot those type of shells. Jim confessed to the shooting and was put under arrest in the Gainesville, Missouri jailhouse. The newspaper reported that Bob had been giving too much attention to Jim's wife Cora, and Bob had even written her several letters. This made Jim jealous, who decided to end it all by shooting Bob. During his jailhouse interview, Jim said he wished he had taken better aim and finished the job. The newspaper said his trial awaited on the outcome of Bob's wounds. Bob survived the attack, and the paper never reported on any trial, so I'm guessing Jim was released since he wasn't successful in ending Bob's life. Only 1 month after this incident occurred, Vergia passed away. Vergia passed away on June 26, 1916, at the age of only 2. Vergia's cause of death was enterocolitis. Enterocolitis is inflammation that occurs in the intestines, colon, or stomach. It's caused by bacteria, viruses, or parasitic infections. The main treatment for this is antibiotics, which weren't invented in 1916 when Vergia became sick. Vergia was laid to rest in the County Line Cemetery in Ozark County, Missouri. Vergia's great-grandparents, James and Cassie Decker, are her only relatives that I found buried in the same cemetery. They aren't buried near each other for some reason. Vergia was the only child Jim and Cora would lose at a young age. 4 years after Vergia passed away in 1920, the family had moved to Craighead County, Arkansas. 2 years later, in 1922, Cora passed away at the age of only 32. There is very little information about her death. Her exact date of death and cause of death are unknown. It is documented she passed away somewhere in Arkansas, but where she is buried is also unknown. I did find that Cora gave birth to her last child, Thelma, in January of 1922, which to me is a hint her death may have been caused by a complication of childbirth. 1 year after Cora passed away, Jim had remarried and had another child with his new wife. Sometime after Cora's passing, Jim married Oma Strong. Oma had one child out of wedlock at 16 before meeting Jim, and she was 21 years younger than him. In July of 1923, they had their first child together, a daughter named Pauline. Oma was 18 and Jim was 40 when Pauline was born. They would also have 2 more sons together, Ray and J.R. Cropper. 3 years later, Jim and Oma had moved back to Ozark County, Missouri. In January of 1926, Jim was arrested for making moonshine and exhibiting a deadly weapon in a threatening manner. 2 months later, in March of 1926, Jim and his 16-year-old son, Henry, were arrested. They were caught building a fire under a moonshine boiler near their home. When they heard the officers coming, they fled and hid in a nearby cave. The officers, of course, cornered them in the cave, and they surrendered. The moonshine still was destroyed, and they were taken to jail. The judge set their bond at $2,000, which is equivalent to about $35,000 in today's money. Jim, of course, didn't have the money, and they were locked up. 3 months later, in July of 1926, a trial was held for Jim and Henry on their moonshine manufacturing charges. Jim was found guilty and sentenced to 4 years in the Missouri State Penitentiary. Henry, who was only 16, was discharged. Prohibition was in full swing during this time. The government had prohibited the production, sale, and transportation of alcohol. This obviously explains why Jim was released from jail after shooting and injuring his neighbor, but served a prison sentence for making alcohol. Jim served his prison sentence and was released 3 years later in March of 1929. After being released from prison, Jim was on good behavior for almost 6 months. On the morning of August 29, 1929, 20-year-old Orville Shipley and his family had been to visit his father. Orville was traveling home in a car with his wife Nancy, his 14-month-old son Merle, and his 2 brother-in-laws, Edgar and Edward Hurd. A gunshot suddenly rang out and hit Orville in the head and neck, killing him instantly. The attacker was firing on them with a shotgun loaded with number 2 buckshot. The second shot was aimed at Edward Hurd, which hit him in the front of his head, leaving him in critical condition. Nancy and baby Merle were struck in the face by stray shot, which caused flesh wounds. During the assault, Edgar Hurd, who was the only one in the car not injured, said he saw Jim Cropper when he looked out from behind a tree after firing the first shot. The injured were taken back to Orville Shipley's parents' house, where medical help and the law were summoned. The law brought bloodhounds, and they were sent on the trail for Jim. The hounds were unsuccessful in finding Jim's trail, so deputies continued to hunt for him. 2 days later, Jim turned himself in to the sheriff at Gainesville. Jim's alibi story was he left his home early that morning to visit a friend named Alex Hicks. Alex had served a 2-year term in the state penitentiary for liquor law violations at the same time as Jim. Jim then said he went to the Barker sawmill to look for work. When they had none for him, he went to the Ewing Loftus farm where he spent the night. When he returned home the next morning, he said he found out he was wanted by the law and decided to turn himself in. So, why would Jim want Orville dead? It was later found out, 2 weeks before the ambush, Jim's son Henry had taken the Hurd brothers and Orville to their moonshine still and had gave them some liquor to drink. Jim met up with them during this time and a fight almost broke out. Jim accused Orville of stealing a moonshine still from him while he was serving time in the penitentiary. Orville denied this and said he traded a dog for the still. The next week, the sheriff found and seized the moonshine still the men had been shown. Jim later told neighbors he believed the Hurd boys and Shipley had tipped the sheriff off on the still location and also that they had stolen from Jim. The newspaper said, Jim Cropper has long been known as a dangerous man and a leader among Ozark County moonshiners. A few weeks later, while Jim was in jail awaiting trial, his son Henry was arrested for moonshining again. 3 months later, in December of 1929, a jury deliberated for 45 minutes and found Jim Cropper guilty of murder in the first degree. He was sentenced to life in prison and was sent back to the Missouri State Penitentiary. After his sentencing, Jim's wife Oma divorced him sometime in 1930. Oma would eventually remarry a widower named Willie Forrest. They had one son and were together until Willie's death in 1979. 2 weeks after Jim's trial ended, his son Henry, who was still awaiting his trial, escaped from jail. The sheriff had permitted Henry to go in and out of the jail to help with chores. Henry would bring in wood, tend the fires, and do other tasks. After the chores were done, the sheriff said he went to lock Henry up for the night, and he was gone. Henry was captured over a year later in Augusta, Arkansas. He was brought before a judge and sentenced to 2 years in the state penitentiary for moonshining and escaping jail. Henry was released from prison in 1933, and he continued to be in the paper for stealing. His stolen items included watermelons, car parts, and a generator. He married in 1935 and started a family. This seems to have settled him down, and he eventually moved to California. Jim lived a long time after his sentencing. I'm not sure if he served his entire life sentence, though. He was in the 1950 census, still in the Missouri State Penitentiary. There are no other records of him until he passed away in 1974 at the age of 91. His obituary stated he was living in Harrison, Arkansas at the time of his death, and he was buried in Pilgrim Rest Cemetery. According to Find a Grave, this cemetery is in Sunflower County, Mississippi. I'm not sure if this is correct, but there is a photo of his stone on there, so maybe it is. This whole story circles back to Vergia. It amazes me the stories I find from these old stones. I found all this information from researching a 2-year-old little girl who was buried over 100 years ago in what is now an abandoned cemetery. At the top of Vergia's stone is a dove with an olive branch in its mouth. This is a symbol of peace and harmony. Vergia's epitaph reads, "Sleep on, little daughter, and take thy rest. God took you home, he thought it best." Here are the before and after shots of Vergia's stone. As you can see, it has that black mold-like stuff just ingrained into the stone. I also found this type on Rachel Crane's grave, and I also found it on Stephen Douglas Hopper's grave. So I'm just going to have to let the D2 do all the work, and I'm going to recheck it this spring and respray it as needed. I hope you enjoyed that story. Thank you so much for listening.